Shalom, shalom. And we are live. Shalom to Brenda, Pastor Bruce, Mentat Assassin, Batter or Worst, Sosa, Betty, Julie. Okay. And looks like that's everyone who's logged in. Oh wait, there's some more chat down below. Let's see. Oh, and Gentle Quiet Woman. All right. Stephen Lindstrom, great. All right. Yes, okay, the shiur is dedicated to protection and shalom for Brenda and her mishpocha. Adonai Adonenu ma'adir shimcha, ein lanu moshil umagen blitacha. Ken ratzon ki tishlachna et yadacha al Brenda vekol mishpacha shaleha Adonai. Tishalem otam Adonai. וגם תעזרנה אותנו בלילה הזאת ללמוד טוב את דבריך. מודיעים אנחנו לפניך לרוחך. בכל הדברים האלה אנחנו נברכך בזכות ישוע המשיח. Okay. Hey, shalom, Jessica and Thea. All right. So, let's see. We got a smaller turnout. That's fine. Hopefully it'll be okay. We are sending it out in 4K. I think I figured out what was the problem with YouTube. So the screen resolution I was using natively it's a UHD, a bit wider than 4K, and so I chopped it down. We'll see. I think that way the burden is not on YouTube to convert it, right? So far so good. It looks pretty smooth over there. So, all right. So let's get started. Tonight we are going to be finishing up chapter 19 of Exodus. We are almost halfway through the book of Exodus in the Hebrew original. Isn't that neat? Yeah, and this shiur is dedicated to Brenda and her mishpacha, her family. Yeah, may his shalom rest upon you, sister. All right, so let's get into it. Yes. So here's the picture this time. Moshe is praying on his knees, right? Up on the mountain, right? He's on the mountain. Okay, and you guys let me know if the Hebrew is too small. If it's too small, I will zoom in on that, okay? Kind of trying to balance what's good for people on TVs and those of you on little cell phones, yeah? All right. Verse 21. My yad there. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe. Hey, shalom, Trisha, glad you're here. Yes, what she said. Please don't forget to like. So, Vayomer, this is a very common phrase. You guys should almost just know immediately what this is by now, especially if you've been with me since we started doing the immersion. Vayomer. So, Amar is to say. The Yod tells you he is saying or he will say. The Vav changes the time. So, Vayomer means, and he said. Right? And he said. Let's get this microphone up here closer. Make sure you guys can hear okay. Who's the he? Yod-He, Waw-He, right? So Adonai. So, and Adonai said, or then Adonai said, you need to be flexible with that vav. It can mean many things, right? Not just and all the. Oh, there's glare on the page? Okay. Let me see what's going on with that. Yeah, usually it's okay. It might be the artist wanted it that way. Okay, let me see if I turn on another light from the document camera if that'll help. Nope. Okay, let me get closer. Maybe getting a bit closer can help with that glare. Let's see. And I'll move the book over here. Let's move the book over to just and I see one of the lights is acting a bit funny. There we go, that might help. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see if that's better. Is that better? Yeah, it looks like less glare now. Hey, thanks for the input. Oh, zoom in. Okay, Bruce is saying to zoom in. All right, let's zoom in on the Hebrew. There we go. Yeah, and when we're zoomed in, I think the camera's own shadow helps to eliminate glare. So, all right. Vayomer Adonai El unto Moshe, unto Moshe. Then, follow the yad, then Adonai said unto Moshe. Okay, great, good, good, good. Now this is in quotes. This is what he said. Reid ha'ed ba'am. Pen yehersu el Adonai lirot v'nafal mimenu rav. Right? So reid. So if you're trying to figure out what the root of this is, so we could imagine that it had a hey in the end and the hey went away. That would mean rada, which means trample or subdue, right? We get this in Genesis. This is the word that's used when Elohim tells Adam to go and subdue the whole earth. It's this word, to trample it down, right? So that doesn't make much sense. He's going to trample the people, okay? So probably not that. We'll cross that off. So then the other option is it might have started with a yod, right? Oftentimes a verb starts with a yod and that yod disappears. And that's exactly what happened, right? So it's yarad, yarad, which means to descend, descend or come down, okay? So reid, descend, go down. Ha'ed, this means testify or admonish, right? The root is aid, like we have the edut, the two testimonies, right? The two luchot havanim, the two tablets of stone, right? So it's from the same root. So admonish, ba'am, bait can mean in or against, with, these sorts of things. I'm going to choose against here. Admonish, against, the against the people, against the pen. Pen is a hard word to translate into modern English. There's sometimes there's some vocabulary in older English that we don't have in modern, right? So lest is really the best way to translate it as one word. If you don't like to use, like Victorian English sounding stuff, then you could say so that not is really what lest means, right? You just have to think what lest means. Hold on, I want to adjust my camera thing there. There we go. I keep cutting off my hand there. Okay, better. Lest, or so that not, yehersu el Adonai. Haras can mean to tear down or to break through, right? So that, and then the yod in the beginning tells us it's a he, and the u at the end makes it a plural. So that they will not break through el unto Adonai. This is about holiness, right? About interrupting the sanctity of the mountain. All right? Lirot. So this is the verb ra'a, resh, aleph, hey, and you're going to see this all the time. When the verbs are ending in hey and you want to make an infinitive from them, right? An infinitive is to do, to run, to jump, to eat, to see, any kind of action with to in it, right? In English. So here's our lamed, that's the to, and re'ot, the hey became ot at the end, so to see, all right? So they might want to break out to see. They're going to be curious, right? V'nafal mimenu rav. Okay. Nafal. Nafal. Many people remember this word, associating it with the Nephilim, right? Nafal is to fall. To fall. And so they think the Nephilim, these, angelic beings in Genesis 6, who came down to cohabitate with women, with human women, they call them their descendants are called the Nephilim, right? And so they think that, okay, it's fallen ones. But I learned from my Ugaritic teacher, Dr. Heiser, he said that no, it's not. That would actually be Nophilim instead of Nephilim. Because it's Nephilim, we can tell it comes from Aramaic Nephilim, which means giants. So it's the word for giants. Their descendants were called giants. Okay? So that's not really what's happening here. So Nafal is to fall. But anyway, it works as a mnemonic. If you like to think of them as the fallen ones, great. It'll help you remember Nafal. Nafal is like Nophilim, which would be fallen ones. Nafal is a perfect, so he fell, but the Vav changes the time. The Nafal. And he will fall I said the he, but it's really not there. It's just will fall, mimenu, from them, rav. What is rav? Rav is many or a multitude, right? And you can remember this. Many of you know, toda rabba, thank you much, right? So rav, it's the same root. There's actually a kind of we have many words in biblical Hebrew for rain. When you're dwelling in a desert area like the Negev, there's going to be, there's also many words for clouds, right? Like what kind of cloud is it? Oh, it's a dark cloud. Oh, it's a rain cloud. It's a thick cloud. It's close to the ground cloud. It's particle dust cloud. There's all these different words, and just general cloud. But for rain, there's one special word, the ravavin, which is like there's such a heavy torrential downpour. Those are the kind when you stick your hand out, like when the desert finally gets rain, it's so heavy your hand is blurry from the rain that's falling in front of it, right? So anyway, so Rav, lots of stuff from Rav. All right. Hey, Shalom Annie. Thanks for giving me the shout out. I'm so glad you're here, Achoti. Great, great. Any comments or questions? Annie's like my spiritual mother here in Philippines, so it's really nice when I see that she's here. I think she's always here, just doesn't always log in to shout out, right? All right, verse 22. Vegam hakohanim hanigashim el Adonai. Vegam, that's two words, ve, and gam also, hakohanim. So you guys know the word kohen. This was one of our words of the day. Ha is the, and kohen, and then the im makes it plural. So ha kohanim, the priests. Hanigashim. So this is a participle. Nigashim, so nagash is to approach, and nigashim are approaching, and the ha is used in Torah Hebrew, similar, if any of you know modern Hebrew or you're familiar with some stuff in the Nach, usually we'll use she for short for asher. Well, ha is used the same way very often in the Torah with participles. So the priests who will approach, even though there's no time here, we can tell on context, el unto Adonai, yit kadashu. They will sanctify themselves, or let them sanctify themselves. Okay, sure, there's a question from Hebrew Mentor. Sure, let's come up here. He's asking me to explain about the potential meanings of mimenu. So this can be from them or from him, right? They look the same. It's identical. And if you want to trigger for remembering this word, when you see the mi at the beginning, that should remind you of min, right? That mean word min, who takes candy from a baby. It's mean. It's so mean. Min is mean because it's always taking candy from babies. So mi is right there. So that's from. And you see the dot, that reminds you that it's min, okay? So in this is a form that exists like this, inseparable. Okay? So the priests should then sanctify themselves, and we could probably even translate this with just of force. Let them sanctify themselves, pen, so if you like the older English, lest, or if you like modern English, which is what I like, so that not, yifrotz bahem Adonai. So that not, and watch the yod, watch the pointer. I'm going to show you how to break it down. So that not, the yod tells us he will break out. Paratz is to break out. It can have different meanings depending on context. So in the springtime, a flower breaks out, right? It breaks out also, right? Like the bud, it blossoms, right? So it can have the meaning of to blossom. Although here we're not saying they better sanctify themselves, otherwise Hashem is going to blossom them. So break out, burst out, so that not yifrotz. Okay, now watch the yod. So that Adonai, and now we're still using so, will not break out against them, bahem, against them. Okay? Hey, shalom, Ivan. Glad you made it down there in Brazil. Wonderful. Okay, so for those of you who are doing reading practice, I know we have several of you who are practicing reading. I'm just going to read through these verses real quickly, okay? And you can just kind of get the feel of it. If you want to watch it again later, you can click the gear and slow it down. That's fine. We'll just read it at a normal reading pace. Verse 21. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, red ha'ed ba'am, pen yehertzu el Adonai lirot v'nafal memenu, rav. Verse 22. V'gam ha'kohanim hanigashim el Adonai, yet kadashu pen yefrotz bahem Adonai. All right. Then we'll continue. Any comments or questions? Brenda's laughing. Was that related to the reading? Right. Now Moshe is going to respond. And let's see. Is that glaring there? Are we having the glare issue? Let me know if that looks okay for you guys. Also, if you need me to zoom in more, that's fine. All right. Verse 23, this one for sure you can do without me now. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai. And by the way, just a little tip. When you're saying the lamed, saying a lamed, one of the telltale signs that an American is reading the Hebrew Bible is we don't usually differentiate in English between a hard L and a soft L. Languages like Russian, they do, right? They've got the myaky znak, and it tells you if it's hard or soft or whatever. But Hebrew has the harder L. So what do I mean? Take the word label, L-A-B-E-L. So this will be helpful if you're a native English speaker. Label. We actually use two different kinds of L's in that in English. Think about the first L, L. Think about what your tongue is doing. L, L. Lay, lay. It's close to the front of your teeth, right? The top teeth, just behind them, touching the roof of your mouth. And then it kind of flicks. Lay, lay, right? It's short. Lay, lay. And now listen to the second L. The second L, it's softer and longer. Label. Hear that? Oh, it's different. There's no attack from the tongue. It's just kind of resting there, touching the top. Label. Right? It's still touching, but it's just, it's not moving. It's sticking in place. So the first one, your tongue does this. Lay, 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 right? Lay. And the second one, it goes label. It's just up there, label. Okay, the second one, we don't have in Hebrew. Okay? So, again, it's okay if you read it. Who cares? I mean, we're going for understanding here. So whether you have an American accent or not is really not a big deal. But some of you have reached out to me that you enjoy not having to listen to the American accent in Hebrew. So I thought maybe I'll give some pointers here and there, right? So this is the first one. L. L. Not L. L. Okay? All right. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai. Then, watch the yod, then Moshe said unto Hashem. Okay, then hold on, I have some Telegram messages covering your chat there. Ah, great, you're very welcome, gentle, quiet woman. She says, excellent explanation. You're welcome, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so let's continue. Actually, I need a drink real quick. You can take a look at the next verse. I am just going to drink a little bit of my chai that I made. Ah, hold on. I just realized when I reset that I didn't, boom, there. Okay. All right, yay. That is good. Chai with oat milk. Okay. Jessica says, I have trouble with the resh sound. I feel like. So look, I've never studied French, but people tell me it's similar to a French R, if that helps, right? And frankly, we're not doing Israeli Hebrew here, although we are doing Sephardic pronunciation, which is very close to Israeli pronunciation. So Israelis will pronounce the resh differently depending on who's speaking. So some of them will roll it more often as like a Spanish resh, right? Others will do the ha like the French R sound. And then sometimes you get it more commonly you get both, like in between, kind of depending where it is. So yeah, it might just take time. Maybe next time I'll try to dig in to explain the resh for you a little better. Yeah. Just don't Keep it back in your mouth. That's the best advice I can give right now. Keep it back in your mouth. Don't put it out on your lips like Americans do. Like Americans, we do an R, right? Reish, right? And that's wrong, right? You're sticking it outside your mouth. The Israeli wants to keep it inside the mouth. Reish. It's inside. Reish. Reish. Inside and kind of up in the middle of your palate, up on top. Okay? So maybe that's the first step. Just concentrate on keeping the source of that sound inside the mouth, not out on the lips. Not but r. See, not even using the lips. Reish. You don't need your lips for reish, 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 reish. And it kind of rolls a little bit, right? Reish, reish. Kind of rough. This is why it behaves like a guttural. It's trying to be a guttural. Like iron. It wants to be like iron. And if you like to do the iron, um, again, this isn't done in modern Hebrew, but lately I've been pronouncing the ayin because I wish I had learned the vocabulary this way. I remember suffering for years when you have words that are spelled with aleph and with ayin, so they sound the same in modern Hebrew, right? They sound the same in, also in Ashkenaz and in Sephardic pronunciations, they sound the same. And it was annoying, right? Because you see the word and sometimes you'd mix up the ayin and the aleph. So I've started pronouncing the ayin for those of you who want to kind of distinguish it for vocabulary purposes. Just keep in mind that Israelis, except for Arab Israelis, they pronounce a lot of times. So 20% of Israelis do pronounce the ayin when they speak Hebrew. Great, great, great. Let's see. Keep in mind, just says some Israeli households, the parents say it one way and the children say it another, and they all get along, right, right, right. And then there's immigrants like me, and we just kind of do whatever we want, get away with it. Look, in Israel, they are very forgiving, right? It's not like going to France or something, like going to Paris and trying to speak French, and everybody's going to poo-poo on your pronunciation and everything, which was one of the reasons I never was interested in learning French. I thought, you know what? If you're going to learn someone's language, it's kind of nice to like get the ooh effect and wow effect when you're speaking to them, right? And they're like, wow, Americans never learn our language, or they very rarely hear foreigners speaking the language. Whereas in France, so many people study French that they're kind of like, oh, you're not saying it right. So I got by on German in France when I was in France. So. All right, good. Nice conversations. Jessica says, oh, thank you. Oh, that helps. Great, 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 great. So if you want to do the ayin, that's also back in your throat. Just think about Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie. Where is it? He's on Mars. If somebody remembers the name of that, I can't remember. He's in Mars. Anyway, and there's this scene where he's outside where there's no atmosphere and his eyes are bulging out. It's like claymation or something. And he's going, wow, 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 wow. That's kind of close to the ayin. So maybe they'll help you. Be Schwarzenegger for that one letter. So, hi, dota. Okay. So we did pronounce it in ancient times, just not today anymore. Okay. All right. So let's continue on. All right, I forgot where we were. Okay. Lo yuchal ha'am la'alot. Okay. Lo, not. Yuchal. This is able to be able to do something. Ha'am, the people. Total recall. Thank you, Pastor Bruce. La'alot. Okay, so look, this is another example of an infinitive of a verb that ends in hey, just like we had over here with lirot, to see, right? And now here we have la'alot, to ascend, right? To, remember the sign language? To ascend, right? To go up. So it was from Allah, it's a lamed hey verb, and the hey has turned into a tav because this is an infinitive, to ascend. Lo yuchal ha'am la'alot. The people are unable to ascend, to go up. El, unto. Ha Sinai, Mount Sinai. Ki ata ha'edota banu. For you yourself, ha'edota, have admonished, right? It's similar to testified. Have testified against nu, right? So it sounds like it's saying have testified against us, but this is the syntax for admonished us, like warned us. It's like warned nu. The nu at the end of banu should make you think of nachnu or anachnu, us or we, yeah? Lemor, saying, Hagbel et hahar vekidashto. Okay, so this word, the root, it should remind you if you know the word gavul, which is a boundary, right? So hagbel, I'm trying to think if I should give you too much grammar or not. Okay, for those who care, I'll say it. For those who don't want to hear it, cover your head, cover your ears. La 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 la. uh, so it's a Hiphil imperative. All right, you can tell because there's the hey in the front, although sometimes that'll be in a nifal. That's not always going to tell you. But also we have the tsere here, right? Usually with Hiphil, or often we expect to find a yod jammed in. This is the causative one, to cause to be something, right? To be jammed in before the third letter. But sometimes it comes down and it lengthens that chirik into a tsere. A. So hagbel means border off, section off, right? Make a border, right? Cause there to be a border. You can think of it like that. Et, we had this as the Hebrew word of the day a couple of days ago. Ha har, the mountain. Vekidashto. And this is a Piel, so designate as holy, oh, it, meaning the har, the mountain. Oh, I see Bada Orwar says accents are hard to get rid of. My Mexican extended family says I still have an Argentine accent since I learned Spanish in Argentina 20 years ago. Oh, that's great. Very interesting. You know, when I lived in Ukraine, people always thought I was Polish for some reason when I would speak. They didn't think I was American, but they thought I was Polish. You know, not a native Russian speaker. So in Kiev they speak Russian. Ironically, the signs are all in Ukrainian, and the advertisements are Ukrainian. All the movies are Ukrainian. The radio station is Ukrainian by law, right? Because they were trying to nationalize and stuff. Since it was a subjugated, a persecuted language for a long time under the Soviet Union, so they're kind of trying to reclaim it. But the people still grew up, and they were, you know, the adults were speaking Russian, right? And so it's funny, like taxi drivers, everybody they'd say, "Oh, are you a Polak?" It's like, which is also kind of funny because a lot of my family, you know, back a couple generations, they're from that area, from Poland actually, but not Polish. So it's funny how your accents work, right? You know, you don't always get the accent of where you're from. Sometimes you end up with ones from somewhere else. Okay. Okay, finished with that. Any comments or questions? All right, I like the banter. We're having some nice conversations. Well, Moshe's praying, right? Okay. All right. Verse 24. And we are almost finished. Just one more frame. Making good time tonight. Vayomer Eliv Adonai. Then, watch the yod. I'm sorry if you're just listening. I know we also made this a podcast, but okay, so the v in Vayomer, that's then. Now I'm jumping over to Adonai, and the Yomer is, he said, El unto v, unto him. Vayomer Eliv Adonai. Then, literally, then he said unto him Adonai. Okay, those are the parts. Lech, Reid. Okay, Lech. We know this from the Torah portion. Lech Lecha, right? There's a Torah portion, Lech Lecha, in Genesis. Lech means go. It's from halach, that the verb that starts with hey. And we've had this as one of our words. Halach, halach, or some say halach, right? To go or walk. So go, that's a command form, talking to one person. Reid, again, this is command form. It's not rada, to trample or to subdue, but it's from yara, descend. Lech, reid, go, descend. Ve'alita, ata, ve'aharon, imach. Okay. Alita is a little bit hard to recognize. It's from Allah, okay? To ascend. So then, alita means it's the perfect. So usually this is what we see as like a past tense, right? I try to refrain in biblical Hebrew and Tanachit from using the terms past tense and future tense. You might have noticed this because, well, it's not really accurate. It's not really what's happening. In modern Hebrew, sure, they've got they would call this past tense, right? But it's not really that way in the Tanakh. It's more about, is something completed or is it not completed yet, right? And a completed action can be past tense. It can also be future tense. We call the prophetic perfect, right? So it can be a future. For example, an alma, a young maiden of marriageable age, translated by the rabbis as parthenos, a virgin will conceive, right? Okay, so it looks like hara. It looks like a perfect, like conceived already, but it's will conceive, right? And even translated into the Jewish Greek this way as well, right? So, or it can even be a command sometimes, a soft command called the precative perfect. So, anyway, don't worry about all the grammar stuff. I just am trying to explain why I'm hesitant to say it's past or future, all right? Because that's a lot of sabras are confused when they read the Bible, especially if they grew up on a kibbutz, non-religious and stuff. It's the times are different and that kind of stuff. So sabra is someone who's a native Israeli. In Israel, 26% of us, we are immigrants. And then the other 74% are natives, right? So 3 and 4 are native born, right? So the natives also have trouble with the Bible in certain places, right? Because of the time and stuff, unless they were raised religiously, right? And they studied it. Okay, so alita looks like you ascended, but the vav is changing the time. Ve'alita, and you will ascend. So lech, raid, ve'alita, go, descend, then you will come up. Ata, you. So it says you will come up, you, ve'aharon, and Aaron, imach, with you. Ve and hakohanim, the Kohens. Ve and ha'am, the people. Al yehersu la'alot el Adonai. Okay, I'm sorry, not and. When I read it further, I realized we should translate this as but. But ha'am, the people, al, will not. Remember, al looks like lo, but backwards. So it's a temporary prohibition when it's al. When it's lo, it's like not ever. Like lo tegnov, you shall not steal ever, right? It's lo. He didn't say al. If he said al, it means like right now don't steal. Okay? So this is right now. That's the difference between lo when we read it this way and al when we read it this way. Lo is no, like not ever, and al is for now. Usually that's the nuance. And hold on, Telegram is blocking again for some reason. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, great. Okay, there's going on in the chat. They're discussing what the title of the book is. You can get it at Amazon or at glossahouse.com. Yeah, that's the publisher. Very good. And I do encourage you to please support the publisher. Let's see. Alex says, good evening, everyone. Shalom. Good evening, Alec. Yvonne says, that's interesting. Could you explain why it is more about perfect or imperfect instead of the time, past, future, etc.? Thanks. Yeah, it's aspect driven. It's just the way the language functioned, right? Um, yeah, and syntax is very important, and context is very, very important. Other languages do this too, to some degree. I mean, you do have aspect. You have aspect in Greek. You have aspect in Slavic languages. Yeah, so yeah. But I just feel moved to say a quick prayer for our ministry. Adonai Adonai tishmor na otanu mikol ra. Tishlach la et malachecha aleinu Adonai. אתה יודע כי אנחנו עושים את הזה לך. אנחנו עובדים רק אותך, אדוני. לכל הדברים האלה אנחנו מאמינים בזכות ישוע המשיח. All right. So please pray for our ministry. I really would ask you guys to do that. Really want the shadow ban to be fully off. That'd be so nice that we can expand and reach a lot of people. Yehersu. Okay, al. So for now, they won't yehersu, break through. La'alot, to ascend. El unto Adonai, pen yifrot bam. Lest, or so that not, yifrot bam. He will not break out bam, but against them. Okay? And by the way, in case you're wondering why is this an O, the rule is for the qamets, when it is in a closed syllable that's unaccented, that means it ends in a consonant, and the accent is somewhere else, we read it as an O. And you can tell that this one should be an O because there's a makef here. Makef joins the words. In ancient Hebrew, this would have been read all as one word. Kind of like in English, we can have a compound word. We can have house and boat, and we can make a compound word, a houseboat, with one accent. We don't say houseboat, right? That sounds strange. You say houseboat. Hebrew was the same way. When you combine words, they were read as if one, with one accent. So in biblical times, this would have been penyafrotz bam, penyafrotz bam. You see, like one word, penyafrotz bam, not penyafrotz bam, right? So that's why it's o instead of ah. This is a closed syllable, and the accent's over here on the bam. Hey, shalom Troy, shalom Yakar. Glad you guys made it. Thanks for the likes, everyone. Okay. Any comments or questions? I'm going to take a drink really quickly. Okay. Yofi. So glad for all the interaction. Don't be shy. Look, if you have a question, don't worry about it being dumb or something like that. We are at all different levels here, all different levels of learning, right? So great. Okay, so Julie says it's complicated. I was trying to translate against them as into them. Oh, yeah, yeah. But that's okay. It's not just Hebrew that's this way. Um, uh, I will tell you, with my experience with languages, one of the things that very rarely has a one-to-one mapping in a language are these particles. Um, I can't remember the grammatical term, like in, for, with, etc. Um, I'll just say particle for now. There's a better term for it. If anybody knows, type it in there. Help me out. Um, Very rarely do you have one-to-one mapping in any language, right? So it's going to happen in Hebrew too. So bait for us in English, we need to understand it as possibly being in, with, against, among, upon, and sometimes we learn from Ugaritic, it can sometimes be from, right? So, yeah, so especially in the Psalms and older Hebrew like that. Stephen says, I remember Yarad means descend from the Jordan River flowing down. Ah, the Yarden. I never thought of that. Thank you for that. I picture water cascading down. Root of Jordan is Yard. Yeah, that's right, the Yarden. Yeah, a lot of times you can put a noon at the end of a verbal root, and that'll give you some kind of noun, right? So other times we put a mem in front. Sometimes there's even an aleph. That's a great mnemonic. Did you guys catch what Stephen said there? So yeah, I never thought of that, Stephen. Thank you. See, I learned something from you. So Yarad is to descend, to go down, and the root of the river of the Yarden is the thing that goes down, is descending. That's nice. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, any other comments or questions? Great discussion. Okay, I'm going to move to the last frame of our chapter. I feel like we should have a party every time we finish a chapter. And here you can see there is a translation at the bottom, but we don't use their translation. Except I think one time when I thought what I was saying was strange, right? We checked to see, and they agreed, so yay. Okay, hold on, let me get that closer. There's a nice picture, but I want to zoom in on the Hebrew. Okay, I recommend too, if you buy the book, don't use the translation. Okay, only to check yourself, right? This is one reason I'm against interlinears, because an interlinear, it, it kind of undoes some of the benefit of understanding that all translations are commentary, because you're stuck with the translation of the interlinear then. Great, gentle, quiet woman, loving the discussion. Prepositions, thank you, Hebrew mentor. Exactly, prepositions. Exactly, beautiful. Yeah, prepositions do not map well from one language to another. That's why you usually have to learn, okay, I mean, all these sorts of things, in Greek, it's really a pain. You have to think, okay, when the word following the preposition is in a certain case, like accusative or genitive, then it's got this range of meanings. When it's another one, it's got this. At least in Hebrew, we don't have to worry about all of that. All right, final verse 25. Vayered Moshe el ha'am, vayomer alehem. Okay. Yeah, gentle quiet woman says she's been frustrated with an interlinear as well. Yeah, it'll hold you back. Really, it will hold you back. It acts like a crutch too for your memory. Like your mind, it wants to cheat. It knows that there's a word just right there, even if you cover it with your. Now, the only kind of interlinear that I do recommend, and we got a little bit of time. Maybe I'll show you in a second after we translate this verse. But it's really cool. I'll show you. It's not an English Hebrew interlinear though. Vayered. So yered is he will descend, or he is descending. It's the imperfect, right? It can be past tense if we're talking about focusing on the process. Like he was descending, like for a long time he's coming down Everest or something. Then in biblical Hebrew you can use that way. But usually we're thinking of future. Again, I hate to put the label, but then the Vav changes the time. Vayered Moshe. Then Moshe descended. See, it's a perfect aspect. He descended. He wasn't in the long process of descending. El onto Ha'am, the Am, the people. Oh, another idea for the ayin. You could think of like a little kid. Sometimes instead of yum, they'll go am. Vayomer, and he said, Alehem, unto hem, unto them. Yeah, Pastor Bruce, exactly. It makes us dependent. Yep. Yeah, I love that quote. All translations are commentaries. That's from the great physicist, Orthodox Rabbi Arya Kaplan. He used to always say that. All translation is commentary. And if you read the Mikot Gedolot, the great writings of the great rabbinical commentators on the Tanakh, you will find that very often from Rashi, the Rambam, Ibn Ezra, these guys very often they'll start explaining the Hebrew, right? They're noticing something strange, or look at this weird word here, and because you can tell that they understood that the most important thing to understanding the Bible is understanding the language, right? That's really the most important thing. Whatever commentaries we have, which also are great, but understanding the language will make it so people like anti-missionaries, like Tovia Singer and these others, they can't lie to you. Because I've seen these guys so often, they'll say this word means this only, but nobody knows, because they're not debating with people who know Hebrew. So they can just say whatever they want. And people are like, oh, really? They get fooled. When really, if they knew the language, they couldn't be tricked by those kinds of shenanigans. Pastor Bruce says, I bought a Hebrew Bible and just use it. It forces me to read it and use intellect. Very good. That's great. That's great. So let me see if I have an easy grasp here. Oh, yeah. I'm going to geek out a little bit here. This is a cool interlinear, but I was very sad because Amazon won't ship Leviticus to me. I couldn't buy them as a whole set, so I was buying them one at a time. As we go through, we're doing the triennial Israeli cycle, right? So this is a cool book for anyone who's into Aramaic also. So this is Onkelos. Come on, it doesn't want to focus. The gold is too reflective. It says Zechron Meir, the Zechron Meir edition, and my good buddy Joshua, my Messianic Syrian pal, turned me onto this. He's very good at Syriac, like a modern form of Aramaic. So look at this. This is a cool interlinear. This kind I recommend. Check it out. You got your Hebrew, and then in interlinear, you've got the Aramaic from Onkelos. Isn't that cool? Right? So here's Et. Hebrew's not the only language of the Et. Aramaic has Yat. Jewish Aramaic has Yat, right? So if you want to check out Onkelos real quick, you just kind of look down and see right there. But that's different, right? But you know why this is here? Because a lot of Orthodox are stronger in Aramaic than they are in Hebrew. So this really is a cheat for them. It's helping them because they might not know the Hebrew and they look down, oh, okay, it's instead of haaretz, right? Because the Gemara is in Aramaic, and that's what they're studying, especially the yeshiva book are studying that all the time. So and it's got Rashi. I don't know why Rashi's in there. I kind of hate that they throw Rashi and everything. It's like, I think it's out of humility. People say, okay, who am I? So I'll put Rashi in there, right? So, and then you got the translation of Onkelos, right? The Chumash translation, and then some nice commentary. It's kind of interesting. So I recommend this if anybody is dabbling with Aramaic also, Zichron Meir edition. The whole set is nice, but it's expensive. But you can pick up a volume for like $30-$35. But they stopped shipping to Philippines the single volumes now, so I couldn't get Leviticus. It's kind of a bummer. All right. I mean, we can, but we'll have to wait for it. All right. So, any comments or questions? 43 minutes. Great time. We finished in time. Ugh. Okay, I'm not seeing questions, although I know there's a delay. We got a minute to spare. You can ask a question. Please make sure that you click like. I appreciate all of you who have done that. And please pray for our ministry. Really would appreciate that. For our congregation over here in the Philippines, congregation Simchat Hashem, the joy of the Lord, the joy of the name, the joy of Hashem, and also for here Hebrew Literacy, the online teaching ministry, which is a growth out from Simchat Hashem. So this is a Simchat Hashem ministry, and also we are in cooperation with Dr. Dwayne Miller and his ministry at matzadi.com. So you can check him out also. Especially tomorrow night, tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m., Dr. Dwayne will be doing his Isaiah study. So word for word from the Hebrew, bringing that across, and then looking at commentaries, the rabbis, all that kind of stuff. You're very welcome, Stephen. Yvonne, welcome, guys. All right, all right. Yeah, okay, good idea, Bruce. Yeah, let's use the last minute to pray. All right. Oh, Ein lanu Mashiach magen bli techa Adonai, rak ata. There is no other Savior other than you, O God, O Adonai. Modi'im anachnu ki natata lanu et Tortecha v'gam et Meshichenu Yeshua. We're so grateful that you've given us the Torah and also our Messiah, Yeshua. Ta'azerna, Adonai, et kol talmudai. Please help all of my students. Titenna alehem zichronim tovim. Please give to them wonderful memories. V'ta'azer gam oti Adonai, lilmod tov b'einecha. And also please help me to study well in your sight. Tishmona et kol asher na'aseh lecha v'gam lemalchutecha. Please help us and protect us in everything that we do for you and for your kingdom. Also for Brother Yanasi, please may you give to him a refuah shalima, a complete healing over there in Malaysia. L'chol hadevrim ha'eli anachnu nevrechecha b'schut Yeshua HaMashiach. All right, you guys, have a great morning or evening, whatever the case may be. Hey, shalom, Dr. Devera. Okay, great. Glad you made Achi. You're very welcome, Ani. Hey, thank you, Hebrew Mentor. Says, very enjoyable class. Thanks, Rebbe. You're very welcome. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for your comments, everyone. Shalom, be well.